Hi, this morning we are talking with Mary Davis about adoration and why is adoration important for us and as a community and for us personally. And I'd like to know more about it. I'm a converted Catholic. I don't know much about adoration, so I'm here to talk to you about it. So thank you for talking.
Thank you for asking, I think.
What do you, if you could talk to somebody like me who's not very familiar with it, the concept of it, what would be the important things you would want to say, or what would it be that you would share with them about why adoration's important and what it is?
Okay. And it's funny because I try to prepare for these kind of things and I'm never prepared. And it's because it's something that I think of as beyond me.
Yeah.
And in the simplest form, Jesus is in the Eucharist. And when you are in his presence, which is different than, yes, God is everywhere, but when you're in his presence where he's in the Eucharist, it's different. And so when you go to Mass, or when he's in the tabernacle, especially when he's exposed in what this is. That's why I have this here, in case that no one knows what a monstrance is. That's what that is. And so Jesus is, since he's not in a body, he's in the Eucharist, we have to put him in the monstrance. And I always thought that was kind of a foreign thing. Like,
Yeah.
What is that thing?
Yeah.
And so it's a way of being with him. It's very similar to being as close to him like the disciples or those he was healing.
Right.
And so the I don't want to even call it an idea. It's the belief is you are spending time with him. You're looking at him and he's looking at you.
It's a more intimate one-on-one time.
Right.
Versus being in Mass or
Right.
wherever.
Right.
You're actually sitting with them one-on-one for an hour.
Right.
And for people who've never known you, praying or...
Right. So it's interesting because God's language is silence.
Yeah.
And we don't give any time for that.
No.
So it's kind of awkward to go at first because you're like, why am I here?
Yeah.
What am I doing? I'm looking at this gold thing.
Yeah.
But if you can somehow just kind of remember what the teachings are, even if you can't, we'll never wrap our heads around it. As
Right.
much as we think we understand it, we just can't.
No. Yeah.
And so it's just kind of like a good place to be and recognize that he is there and trust that he's there, and then just kind of let any time you spend with the Lord is better time spent than anything else we can do, because it's he is the only thing that's true.
Yep.
And that's really hard for us to remember that because we're like off running doing things, but especially since COVID hit,
Mm-hmm.
it really woke me up to that. And when we couldn't get into church and all we had was adoration, I call that the boogeyman time, when we didn't know what was going on, right?
Yeah.
It gives me chills when I think about it because no one knew.
Yep.
And Father Tony had adoration in the church.
Yep.
And I was like, can I touch anything?
Yeah.
You
I
know?
remember that time. Yeah.
And I was like, okay,
Yep.
if I'm going to make the effort to come into the church, I might as well stay for a while.
Yeah.
And I would stay for 5 hours. I'd sit in the back and I'd just sit.
Yeah.
And those were the days where I was running to Father and he's like, probably thinking I was insane, but I went to confession
Lots of us were
weekly.
insane.
Because I was battling all this
Yeah.
fear and anger and what's going on, and so I would just sit. So in hindsight, that was the most important thing for me to do.
Yeah.
But I thought of it as there was nothing else for me to do.
Yeah.
Like I'm at home and I'm
Sitting. Yep.
stirring
Your
my
mind's
head.
going
Right.
crazy.
Right. So what I am learning just in the last 6 months is, when you're thinking what's real, what's true, the only thing that's true, the only thing we can guarantee is the Mass and the Eucharist and the Adoration, the birds and the trees and, what is real, and immerse yourself in that. So, and they have that saying, and I can't remember who said it, that if you're too busy to pray, if you're too busy to pray for 10 minutes and pray an hour or something like that.
Yeah, but you obviously need to be praying
right,
more.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I found in all these struggles to try to get kind of a rhythm to my prayer life and a rhythm to what I'm supposed to do daily, just to be able to be open to receive the graces from the Lord. When I do that, I'm not, like, people don't know the difference from the outside.
Right.
But I know
the difference.
Yes. My thoughts are more in order. My priorities are more clear.
Yep.
And so I'm actually spinning my wheels when I'm not praying. And this all came from my appointment with the Lord. Yeah. What Father Tony would say, divine appointment.
Yeah.
And what's interesting with the what are we working on this last few weeks was the charisma.
Yep.
And the story.
Yep.
That excites me.
Yep.
That Father Peter is telling the story, because when I had an encounter with the Lord in 2013, it was because someone took the time to say the story.
Yeah.
From the beginning to now.
Yep.
And when they came to the part in their talk where when Jesus baptized us and he said, "You're mine."
Yep.
That's what Father talks about, transitioning from under the devil to under God.
Yep.
And there's such a spiritual, I think of it as a spiritual battle to keep us from knowing these hidden things.
Yeah.
So when it's a struggle to get to adoration, I call that a spiritual battle. There's something that God really wants to tell me, and he wants to tell me in adoration. Yeah. Not in the car.
Yeah.
Not when I'm doing what I want to do.
Right.
And there's an obedience in that. So I'm learning obedience. I've learned
it's like
so
a
many
submission.
things. Yes.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. That's really beautiful. Yeah.
And I encourage it for everyone, and I also encourage, if you feel awkward or like you're wasting time, push through it. Yeah. Because what God is saying to you, it's not that he can't tell you anywhere else, but there's something where it's kind of like you've made a deal. Yeah. Like God is seeing you mean it.
Right.
And you are doing, because what can we do? God doesn't need us, right?
Right. No. But and that's the cool part about it, right?
Right.
He doesn't, but he wants us.
Right.
And he made us. And so is there a process you'd recommend, or something you would say, hey, maybe try this first, or,
Sure.
So that they don't get overwhelmed
or discouraged. You could even stop in. Just stop in for 10 minutes or so, and maybe kind of figure out your rhythm of what is an ideal time for you to relax. When would you need that breath of fresh air kind of thing?
Right.
There are people who don't commit that come regularly.
Yeah.
And so I understand that. There's this kind of resistance to committing, but the important thing is they're there.
Right.
And God will help them figure out when that is, what that time is. And I did that for years.
Yeah, so you don't necessarily have to set a set time. It's, oh God, I really want to, I feel I should go, or I could go right now, or...
Because in actuality, getting there is the hard part, right?
Yep.
Just to get over that hurdle, and then he'll lay it out for you.
Yeah.
And you won't, in many ways, know what he's laying out for you until you've gone, because you won't even know what he's saying, because it's all in the arena of adoration or spending time with him, and it seems so foreign.
Yeah.
And so, and it kind of was one of my frustrations growing up is I didn't really know my faith.
Yeah.
And I would say, yes, reading and learning and everything, but just being with him.
Yeah.
is because the way I look at it is we're constantly being taught things, but he's the one who activates it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of brewing in there
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And so you just hang out with him a little bit. I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but it's something when you're speaking. Now, I've not had children, so I don't know what it's like to be a mom and to give birth to a child and then watch them grow, right? But, of course, I've been a child.
Yeah.
And I remember my mom telling me, you know, what it was like when I was in her womb or when I was a baby or whatever. And those are things that I just, of course, don't remember.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I would assume that once you've had children, you can go, oh yeah, now I know what my mom was
Yeah.
talking about. I know what she
Yeah.
meant.
Yeah.
All those hidden things, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And the way we learn about the Mass and our faith is kind of like our mom talking about us when we were kids. You know, this is what, like, whatever, Mom, you know.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
And one of my favorite is from Father Simon on Relevant Radio. He'll say, the devil wants you to feel holy, but God wants you to be holy.
Yeah.
And we have kind of a hang up where we think, well, if we're not feeling something, nothing's going on.
Yeah.
And that's where our faith has to pick up and say, these are the things I know.
Yeah.
God doesn't lie, you know.
Yeah.
God is, we have confidence in God on what he said, blah, blah, blah. And therefore, and, you know, as a kid, I would look at people and go, well, I know they have faith, but I don't know what that is,
Right.
you know. And I probably could have really benefited from hanging out with Jesus in
Yeah.
adoration.
Yeah.
And it's just, I know that doesn't sound very adoring, but I mean, you get to know him.
But that is adoring, right? If somebody wants to hang out with me because they think I am, like, I should get to know her
Right,
better. That's,
right.
oh, you know, yeah, I've been waiting for you to, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so yeah, and it's a great analogy of the transition of the youth and the childlike faith into a real knowledge and an understanding. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
I love the way you talked about adoration. I thought it was really beautiful, and I thank you for chatting with me about it, so then we can know more.
Well, I just think of all the heady things that I hear about, you know, like from Fulton Sheen or, you know, Scott Hahn or something, and I'm like, you should hear this stuff because this is awesome, but it never comes out of my mouth because I can't.
But I don't
repeat it.
even think that's. But I think this is more realistic.
Yeah.
Right. And this is it. What everything you said was much more intimate and true, and that's the kind of stuff that resonates with me.
Good.
Lots of people can say things fancy and whatever, but I want to hear, and I think we all want to hear truth and see it in reality and have models, right? And be able to have somebody that's modeling that faith or that behavior, and it makes it less frightening, and it makes it less big. And so that's what's so beautiful. The way you talk about it, and, you know, adoration seems daunting. And maybe that's something we all have to check with ourselves.